And I think our kids fall into this trap. And now we've come all the way back to that fear of failure, is that if it isn't right, if it isn't perfect, then I shouldn't have bothered at all. And since I'm pretty sure that I won't get it perfect the first try, I'm not going to try.
I just won't try.
And so if we can remind them that just doing anything, just doing something, bringing it into existence is the first step. It's not the last step. It's the first step. Then maybe we can keep the ball rolling from there.
Hi, and welcome to The Weekly Parent, a podcast for people who Google everything, overthink most things, and occasionally spiral, wondering if they're totally screwing it all up. I'm your host, Dr. Kiyah Duffey. Look, I'm not here to hand out gold stars or add one more item to your to-do list. Here at The Weekly Parent, we ask real questions of real people who, frankly, know more than we do and try to cut through the noise, filter the advice, and figure out what actually works. Let's dive in.
I am so excited that you agreed to do this. And
I am excited to be on your podcast.
Today, we are going to talk about creativity. That's what I'd like to talk about. Creativity, big idea creativity. And in preparing to talk to you about this, Simon, I started like digging around in creativity and development of creativity, and we're both parents, and so that's really where I start to think about it. And you as a middle school art teacher, I feel like, and as the incredible artist that you are, when I think about creativity, I think about somebody like you. I do not think about myself, and I have come to learn in my preparation that is what psychologists who study creativity call big C creativity, which is like artists, performers, like the things that we would all agree are creatives, people who are big C creative. Little C creativity is something that we all do in our lives all the time.
Yes.
And so I want to talk about big C creativity and little c creativity.
Okay. I love it. So 2 things. First of all, when we first were texting about me talking to you on this podcast and you were like, I want to do this cold, no topics, I stopped thinking at that point. Like I turned my brain.
So did it help when I texted you like 20 topics today?
You hit me with this long text. Oh man, there's a test. There's a quiz. It's fine. But so, but that's fine. But then the other thing is like, I think it's really funny that you, and maybe this is, gets right to sort of the heart of the matter, is I don't know if there's a big C and a little c creativity. It's like, if anything, if you imagine drawing a line with a marker, there's an outside edge to that, and then there's an inside edge to that C. And like, that's the difference between big C and little c creativity, because you invented a spoon. Like, you reinvented a spoon. And then not only that, you figured out a way to like market it and have it made and do all these things. Whereas that's a kind of creativity, that entrepreneurial and that invention kind of creativity is a place where I don't have that. I don't like, I think no one would want that. Not your spoon. The Kazingo spoon's fantastic. You should all go out and buy one. But like,
I'll pay you later, Simon. Thank you very much.
Like, who create things in niche markets that in my brain, I'm like, who would want, there's not a big enough market for that. Why would you do that? But that's because I don't have that entrepreneurial creativity. And so I think like, we all do it in different ways, and it's a muscle like anything else that we flex and have to exercise and have to use. And it's funny because I'm here and, my classroom is around me right now. And for the last 3 days, like, I've been running around and unpacking boxes of new materials and like, new markers. It's fantastic. And I've got students on my mind and thinking about, okay, well, how do I greet this next group? What am I going to say so that I'm not just like repeating myself for those kids I've seen before? And, and so I'm running through all these things. And one thing that I do often repeat is, because I will have kids come into my room and say, unprompted, I can't do art. Period. End of sentence. Like, declarative sentence.
Yes.
I can't do art. And after 15 years of doing this, what I often have come to say to them is, what would your English teacher say if you walked into their classroom and said, I can't read? Like they wouldn't just say okay and send you into the corner. They would teach you to read.
Mm-hmm.
So good thing you are now in an art classroom with an art teacher and you can learn how to make art. School is the place we go to practice things we're not already good at.
Yeah.
And creativity is something that we need to practice. It doesn't always come natural.
Yeah. I love that way of inviting your students into that space. Tim and I are constantly saying to our kids two things that I think are relevant for the idea that you just shared. One of the things is practice makes progress. Like you are not going to get to some other point without practicing it. There's the practice makes perfect. Well, that is not where we want you to go. And it's really just about getting better. It's just about progressing, but we have to practice everything that we do. And the other thing, and I really credit our kid's fourth grade teacher with this, she introduced this idea of the magical yet to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I am not good at art yet. I can't play piano yet. I can't read well yet. I mean, it's just like adding that magical word onto the end of anything changes from it's a declarative or that closed mindset to, okay, there's a possibility here.
The growth mindset. We talk about a lot of the growth mindset versus a closed mindset. And the yet is beautiful. Actually, at the kids' school here at our elementary school, they actually have the word yet in huge letters.
I love that.
As you walk in, and they're always reminded of that idea that we're here to learn. And it's interesting because we all, you and I grow up with practice makes perfect as a phrase. And when they were saying it to us, it was with the best of intentions. Like it was the idea that, the more you practice, the better you'll get. Mm-hmm. But what's strange about it, and we see it now, is that the people who excel at things, whether it's sports or music or art or theater or business or whatever, if you were to ask them, they would never say that they have gotten it perfectly.
Right.
Never. They're always trying to get a little bit better and a little bit better. And your degree of growth changes. How much better at basketball can Michael Jordan get, than where he was, but he never stopped practicing. So It's like how artists don't just say like, well, I finally painted the perfect landscape, I guess I'll stop. No, you do the next one and the next one. And this is what will frustrates kids is that the one you thought was so good, when you then do a bunch more and then look back, you're like, oh my gosh, how did I think that was, and so we're just constantly growing and changing and working towards progress.
So you teach middle schoolers.
I do.
And that is a very special age.
Listen, I have a middle
As someone who has a middle schooler, I know that you know this. So, I mean, I know you've just described how you talk about the need for practice and the importance of practice with them. Are there certain things that you encourage them to do that you have found in your own practice helps to sort of build that creativity muscle? And I think you would agree that it is a muscle and that you have to practice it and it gets better as you do. And so, yeah, how do you talk about it with them and what do you encourage them to do either with your own middle schoolers at home or the ones that you teach?
So the thing that's hard or challenging with that early adolescent age group, because I heard in one of your earlier episodes, you were talking with somebody and you guys were saying how adolescence is like 12 years old to 25. Like we don't,
it's protracted.
It's a huge long span now when we talk about adolescence. So I work mostly with early adolescents. And I want to take an opportunity because I want to say this to your listeners that this age group, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, it can be so frustrating. And so we have a tendency as teachers and parents and whatever with youngest kids, the foundations of education are so important. So important. And we got to make them love school and get those basic skills and all that. And then with high school, we're like, okay, well, get in college and career prep. And we have, that's so important. And middle school is this sort of weird, gross, smelly, forgotten age that people want to kind of we're just going to get through it at arm's length and survive it. But the truth is, and this is the message is, kids at that age need us more than at any other age because their brains are in total chaos, and they need their parents and their teachers and their coaches and their, club leaders, whatever, to be there and so for me, if I see if I can successfully segue back to your question in terms of what do I do in my classroom, it's a ton of positive reinforcement. It's always looking for something that's working in their creative endeavor. And it doesn't mean blowing smoke, and it doesn't mean lying, because middle schoolers, early adolescents are savvy people. They know when someone, can I swear on a podcast?
Yeah, totally.
When someone's bullshitting them,
Yes.
right? I know your eldest, and she knows
Oh my gosh.
if someone is trying to give them the fake out. And
With
so,
cutting laser focus
oh,
sometimes
yes,
too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And when they were little, we could be like, I love it. It's so fantastic. Oh, look at that. Like, it's going on the fridge. They know what isn't working. They know what their flaws are. But if you can find these little nuggets that are working. Oh my God, that little riff that you played was sweet. Sure, no, it's not perfect, but that riff, man, that worked. Or look at this line in the drawing. Sure, it's not a perfect, accurate portrait, but this line is just so smooth and carries so much weight. And they might play off like it doesn't matter, or that they don't hear it, or they don't care, whatever. No, it's terrible. It sucks. But they do hear it. And if you can just keep that little ember smoldering, right?
What's interesting to me when I hear you wanting to do is continue to find that thing. I mean, the analogy with eating is, let's have something in art class that is something that I know that you like to do, so that you can engage in that. And yet I'm going to try to nudge you in this other direction by practicing this other skill or trying this other medium, or, there are some things that we want to also explore that are going to be new to you, and new skills and new mediums and new tools. I imagine that is a difficult thing to need to teach. So there's the element of just supporting creativity, but then you also have to guide them, and there are things you have to expose them to that they might not like. What is that like?
It's in discomfort that we grow, right? It has to do with the zone of proximal development. Well, I won't explain it perfectly, but it's basically that place where you're always on the edge of a challenge. We're not staying safely back from the edge. It's in that place that we're pushing ourselves and challenging ourselves. And so when it does work, there's victory, and there's that feeling of success, and kids don't always like to be there, especially middle schoolers, early adolescents, who are questioning everything about themselves. I'm not tall enough. My hair looks weird. Didn't used to have pimples, and now I have pimples. Does that person like me, or do I like that person? When our kids were little and they would come home with the drawing, and it was like a potato with 7 legs, and they were like, it's a dog, and you'd be like, it is a dog. It's amazing. And they'd knock off 20, 25 of those dogs every day. And it didn't matter. And then they hit a certain point, and it's right around 5th grade, 6th grade, I found, where suddenly things start to have to look right. But they don't yet have the skill set to make it look right. And it's really, really frustrating for them. But that is the sort of zone of proximal development. It's where they know what they want to get to, and they can't quite get there. So the job for us who want to foster that creativity is, how do we keep them trying? And it can be really hard.
Yeah, sure. I want to talk about fear of failure, proximal development, because it suggests that you're close enough to something that you know, but you're still pushing your boundaries. Maybe then, if there is failure, it is not quite so big, not quite so dramatic. So that's one part of this that I'd like to talk about. And if you've been teaching for quite a while, have you seen a change in how young people talk about or internalize or think about failure? And
I mean, so all of us have it. nobody likes to fail. Nobody likes the thing that they're doing to not work. There is certain thing with that age group where all emotions are turned up to 11, both the joy and the sadness, and we see it with our kids. I remember my son at one point felt within the last year, going to be 14 this year, and he was so upset, and it was not, I don't even remember what set him off, but he was so upset, and he started crying, and he was like, I don't know why I'm crying. And there was this sort of moment, and I just went and, like, I kind of sat with him, and I tried to be there for him, but he was so frustrated with the fact that he couldn't articulate what was making him so upset, because he genuinely didn't know. And they it's just an example of where kids that age, that it can be
Yeah.
so up and down.
Mm-hmm.
And so that idea of could get this wrong,
Mm-hmm.
there's all sorts of made up consequences to getting it wrong. If I get, and I won't even try to figure them out, but like, just that sense of that idea of failing seems so terrible. And so then the question becomes for parents, and I think it has to start actually at a younger age than middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of that, unfortunately, damage be the word for it, but that damage has been done, is if we don't give our kids a chance to fail and make mistakes and get hurt,
Yeah.
when they're little, and then see that they can get back up again. By the time they get to me, there is a real paralysis.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have seen it, in terms of the rise in anxiety levels and anxiety diagnoses. And as someone who has deals with anxiety myself, I won't discount that, as it's not made up. There are people who are very anxious, and can have panic attacks and
Mm-hmm.
really sort of crippling anxiety. But our kids now, I say our as in like our sort of society, I think they've learned this language of anxiety and this language of triggering. And
Mm-hmm.
I loved your episode. I've listened to like almost all of them at this point. It's so good.
You're the one.
I love
You're
it.
the one who has.
I'm the one. Like,
Nice.
but you had one, and the title was "Not All Pain is Trauma."
Yeah. Yes.
And it's true. And so when they've never failed,
Mm-hmm.
when with the best of intentions, parents have stepped in front of all possible negative emotion and pain, eventually they're gonna fail. Something isn't gonna work. And if you have never experienced that before, then you have no ability to deal with it.
I know. And for
And
you
then
to
you
be
get afraid
seeing
to
that, yeah, and for you to be seeing that in an art class. I mean, I cannot draw anything other than a stick figure. I mean, I really can't, and that would be a thing that for me would produce anxiety. But that is like the consequences of not getting a picture perfect or of not drawing, like it's really low here, and yet it is very real. I mean, kids are
well,
going to
and
feel that emotion very, very really.
they do. And I mean, I think that, like, in a school setting, when you're in class, you're always going to have that little bit of like, oh, someone's judging me, I'm going to get a grade on this. And so there is this sense of a concrete,
Mm-hmm.
you know negative or positive in terms of how well you do. And that's one of the challenges that I face grading in art. I try to find things when I do grade that are very, very concrete. I'm never looking at how good or bad a piece of art is, because it's totally subjective. And this is to go back to what you're saying about how to actually teach these skills and teach these techniques. um, I try to be as open as I can with what kids want to do. I do a unit where I have my eighth graders make teapots
Mm-hmm.
out of clay, and it's challenging. And but they can make the theme of the teapot whatever they want.
Mm-hmm.
It has to have a lid, it has to have a spout and a handle, it has to hold water without leaking, and it has to be able to pour. Sometimes that's just a dribble. If you have done those things, you're going to do fine in terms of the grade.
Yeah.
Right? Those are all very concrete things. Then it's the student who can take their creativity in whatever direction and as far as they want, as long as they're getting these little concrete pieces. And
Yeah.
so in terms of teaching it, it's like creating a pathway that they can run around in as much as they want, but the edges are here.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm going to go back to you saying you can't draw a stick figure.
I can draw a stick figure.
You can draw a stick figure. You can't.
That is all I can draw.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you this.
Uh-huh.
How often do you practice drawing?
Great question. Never.
Okay.
I know.
So,
I can't draw anything except a stick figure yet.
Exactly. Because right now, you don't have a lot of spare time to dedicate to drawing. But I remind people that like we read all the time, whether we mean to or not, and whether we're reading texts or emails or street signs or magazine in the doctor's office or whatever, we're practicing our reading without thinking about it. We practice our math, we practice our social interactions, all of these things without thinking about it. For some of the things that we would call like the creative arts, you have to actually carve out time to practice it, but it doesn't mean that it's an all or nothing situation. I think a lot of people come into this idea of creativity like, oh, I'm either a creative person or I'm not.
Yes.
And if I haven't been blessed from some cosmic entity with this gift,
Yes.
then I can't do it. And that, as we were just talking about, growth mindset, can't is this very guillotine chop of a word.
Yes.
And so
It also, Simon, that also, I think, and actually I have to credit Nick and Leah from Were You Raised by Wolves in saying this, because I just listened to this recently. It also discredits those who are maybe in more of what we would consider these creative fields, as if it is just something that is innate, that they also don't practice or spend time on, when in fact it is not that at all. They spend so much time honing their craft.
correct.
Yeah.
Thank you for acknowledging that, because it's a really true thing, and I think a lot of people forget it, that there's this assumption that it's just this sort of easy gift. It's not that it's easy. What I maybe was gifted with is an enjoyment of it.
Yes.
Like tried it, I started it, and I was like, I like this. So I was inherently motivated to do more of it. But the ability and the practice and the training, that was real work and still is. Every day, again, my son will get very frustrated and he draws all the time, fills sketchbooks, and he gets so frustrated because I can't, it didn't come out the way I wanted it to and I can't do it. And sometimes we'll look through my sketchbooks and I'll be like, look at this hand. I still can't do it. Like I'm still trying. I can't draw a hand yet the way I want to. And we're even now. And usually that helps.
I want to, if you're up for it, I want to link to your Instagram account where you're putting up your art. And I want to say, like, so tell me, how long has it been that you have been doing a daily sketch?
I wish I could give you that number. The truth is I have been not good at it. There was a period might have been during COVID, that I was really good because we were all inside all the time, right? So there was no dance practice and soccer practice and this, that, and the other thing. And so I have fallen off. And this comes actually, I'm really glad you asked this, because so here we are starting the new school year of renewal. A time of restarting things.
Everything's going to change. It's all going to be better.
Yeah, it's all going to be better. But it's also, for at least for teachers, and I think for a lot of kids and parents too, it's a new day zero, right? Kind of like the New Year's Day, right? So we make these resolutions. And so I have made resolutions, and I'm going to try to do these things and maybe habits that I lost track of over the summer and now start again. And one of them that I want to do is the drawing every day. It's funny because what I try to say to people, it's not necessarily drawing, painting, whatever, but I'm trying to make some marks every day. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes I'll post those. I'll just try to post what I did. Either it worked or it didn't work. And I actually just read a thing about progress and making progress with the thing. Jerry Seinfeld, way back when he was just doing stand-up before the show and before all that, one of the things he would do is he had a calendar dedicated, and he made a commitment to write some new material every day. When he did it, he would mark a big red X through that day in the calendar. And those X's started linking up and become this chain. And when you look at it visually, you don't want to break the chain.
Mm-hmm.
And, you don't have to crush it every day. You just have to do a little bit.
Do it. Yeah, do a little bit. The other thing I really like about you sharing your older art, you are doing what I tend to talk about with respect to food, which is modeling for your kids, and you're just showing them this isn't about getting to some point. This is really more about the process. And if you're enjoying it, then keep doing it. That it's not about perfecting. Yeah. We've been circling that idea.
Right.
Do you consider yourself creative?
Yes.
Is that as an adjective you would use for yourself?
Yes, I would. And I think that but I think in a way for me, it's easy to use that adjective because I have a sketchbook or I have an iPad that I draw things on or paintings or whatever. And so it's like I can look at something very concrete. I think sometimes people don't think about the different ways that they can be creative. Any parent that comes up with a way to feed their kids something different every night has deep creativity. Or any parent that comes up with a way to explain to their child why they need to brush their teeth without losing it is tapping into that idea of creativity and patience. We all have these different ways in which we exhibit creativity. Those in the visual arts or performing arts, like there's a very straightforward thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to your point at the beginning of all of this, you're like, you did this other thing that to me seems really challenging. And for me, it's like, well, yeah, it was a thing that I did, but I discredit it and discount it in such a way compared to what I see, in this case, you doing, that is a skill that seems so far out of reach to me. It's really just, it's our perspectives.
Because it seems wild to me that you don't see that as the like alchemical magic, because people will see what I do and it's like, and I'm holding it for the listeners, I'm holding up a pencil, but it's like, this is a magic wand that I'll touch the paper and this stuff just flows out of it. And it's this trick that I do. When I see people who run small businesses or restaurants or do what you do, to me, it is equally as magical and out of reach.
I know.
Because my brain just doesn't sort of see it. But I also, and I'm going to come back, I also know that I think I could. I might not have the success. I might not do it as well, but I think if I decided that I wanted to try and do something in a particular field, I think if I put my mind to it, I could. And this comes back to the idea of teaching creativity, that you have to have that not yet mindset, and you have to be willing to have it be hard at first. I know that we texted about a million different topics, but there's a couple I'd love to
please
get into a little bit, because this is the Weekly Parent.
Yes.
The Weekly Art Teacher. So, one thing I'd love to talk about is, and I'll try not to be too preachy, but is screens. We're working very hard to limit personal screens. We have no problem with screens. And much like you always say, you have no problem with sugar cereal or junk food, it has its place. So screens. I love movies.
Yes.
I'm a gamer, right? But one of the things that we try to do, like with gaming, is my kids and I will game together. Like we'll play Xbox together. Sometimes I hate the game we're playing, but we're doing it together. So it isn't just my child lost solo to a screen. We have been very lucky, and thanks to informative podcasts like your own and others, children have heard enough about some of the new science behind the dangers of excessive screen time and dopamine addiction. I'm going to read that book that Tim read.
Oh, 10 Reasons to Delete Your Social Media Account?
Now, that like they are now seeing, ooh, maybe I do want to wait. Maybe I don't need to be on Snapchat. It's okay to have the time unconnected. But from the creative perspective, here's my spiel, is that phones and social media in particular for kids who are still in that developmental frontal lobe brain stage, the phone, the iPad, whatever, takes away boredom. It fills the hole that is that sense of I'm bored, I don't know what to do. But it's filling it, much like junk food, with empty calories. It feels good in the moment. It's working in the moment to fill that hole, but it never really sticks. And you're always looking for a little bit more, but you're never bored. And if you're not bored, then you're not going to create anything.
I just read, hold on, this is so relevant. And I read and I highlighted this proof.
Yeah, I see it.
So this is from a psychologist who studies creativity, and he's talking about the regions of the brain that are involved in creativity. And we are beginning to know a lot more about this. And one of the key areas is the hippocampus, and there's something called a default network. So it's a series of areas of our brain that kind of all work together in people who are, when they are sort of in their creative states. And this isn't just big C creative people, it's anybody who is being creative. And this default network is what is active when we are told to sit and do nothing. And it is basically, so when we're left to our own devices, he writes, we tend to engage in all sorts of spontaneous thinking. And this is referred to as mind wandering. And that the two key pieces of this are simultaneously thinking back on your experiences as well as thinking forward and projecting to some unknown but possible future. And it is in that space of nothingness where we are able to kind of access the ability to increase creativity or to be creative. And Simon, I could all day long talk about my relationships with screens and my kids. It drives me crazy. And the thing that worries me most, because our kids don't have social media, is YouTube, because it is a bottomless pit. And my 12 and 13-year-olds do not have the ability to say no to it.
Right.
And when I say no and all screens are off, unless we're doing family movie, I find my kids just wandering around the house, like looking at books. And my youngest picked up making necklaces. I mean, all kinds of things come out. But I have to be the bad guy and say no. And I am just.
And we do. But that is it, though. That's parenting in a nutshell. Is we have to be the bad guy because eventually we let them go. And again, I know I keep referencing back to your other episodes, but you had that, it was the all pain is trauma episode. And at the end, I can't remember if it was you said it or your guest, but it was the most beautiful idea. The biggest sacrifice in parenting is that we eventually have to let them go. You know, we think we're sacrificing these things of our time, or I had to drive someone everywhere. But no, it's that we spend all this time trying to create this functioning human. And then at a certain point, we gotta send them out and hope that the things that we did work. And so it's like, we have to be the bad guy. And sometimes that means that we have to suffer in the moment with this kid who's like, I'm bored. This sucks. Or I want to watch the screen. Why won't you let me watch the screen? You're the worst. And it's like, okay, I'll be the worst.
That's right.
But then, okay, I'm going to circle back now. This is where, in terms of what can we do to foster creativity, have the things in the house. In the same way that you can't be mad at your kid for eating junk if the only thing in the house is junk food.
It's great connection. We are responsible for bringing things into the house.
Right. So you're going to, provide the cut carrots and the cucumbers and the fruit and the healthy snacks. Also, we need to provide blank paper, colored pencils, there's paint, even Legos. I know your boy has a ton of Legos.
Oh, we are a Lego family.
And we'll say, go get into the Lego bag. And that creativity starts to just happen. Whether they mean to or not, it starts to happen. And I have one more thing because
Get back on the soapbox.
Okay, our kids are stressed. All kids are stressed. And you were asking about anxiety in middle schoolers, and do I see it? And I do. And all of us teachers see it. And one of the big reasons for it is that they can't turn off. I had a pretty miserable middle school experience. But when I got off the bus, the bullies weren't in my life anymore. Because there was no social media. So I had my handful of safe friends at home, and we lived in our world that didn't have those jerks, right? But now when kids spend a lot of time online and on screens, those bullies follow them. They're looking at these perfect, in quotes, curated lives, these influencers who are so beautiful and so fit and, everything. And they have all the clothes and all the objects and the name brands. And the kids are just like, oh, I suck because I'm not that. So what happens, neurologically speaking, is their brain never stops producing cortisol. And for those who might not be familiar, cortisol is also known as the stress hormone. It's what floods your brain and your body right before the adrenaline that allows you to fight or flight. So when we actually are fighting or we actually are running, fleeing this dangerous situation, it's adrenaline. But prior to that is cortisol, and it gets us super ramped up so we're ready.
Yeah.
And it's great and it's important as long as when the danger has passed, it goes away. But for our kids right now, because of all the pressures in their life, and in particular social media, it never goes away. That cortisol is always flowing.
Always flooding their bodies and their brains.
You know what slows the flow of cortisol? Creativity, creative acts. And it doesn't have to be art or music. It could be baking. It could be working on a model or an engine. It could be stacking wood carefully, where you're engaging that creative part of your brain. And so when you do creative things, it slows the cortisol. And so if you've got an anxious kid, if you've got a stressed out middle schooler, what can they do? Like what act, what can they make?
Yeah.
And see if that
helps. You probably can't speak to this as a teacher, but as a parent, how do you help kids begin to explore? This is a challenge that I have had. I don't want to be the parent that is forcing my kid to practice. I don't want to have those battles, but I also recognize that my kids aren't going to know what they love or what they really want to continue to do without being exposed to that. And so there's this balance of needing to do both. So how can we, I don't know, test the waters on some of these things that could be that creative outlet without investing all kinds of time and money and energy?
I mean, that's such a really challenging but good question, because some of us are very lucky. And some of us have the means, to say, well, let's try out this thing, this club, or this activity, and it might come with a cost. And then if the kid hates it, well, okay, it's not a big deal. But for some people, that's prohibitive. So I mean, I think one thing to do is definitely look at your schools.
Yes.
Right. Schools try really hard to create opportunities for kids to do different things in the form of clubs and sports teams. So that's one piece. And then there are also a lot of community things, like music sometimes will offer arts nights, or where, the kids can come in and see stuff without having to pay, or So when those opportunities present themselves, take them.
Yeah.
And listen to your kid and
Ask some questions. Get curious.
ask
Yeah.
questions, like, yeah, curious questions. Not
I have a question in terms of resources. Here again, digital and online world could open up so many possibilities.
it
Like
can.
for classes. Like my dad actually took a painting class with my youngest. But it was online. Someone offered it
Fine.
and they took it together.
It's great. It's great because and thank you for saying that. I want to be careful not to vilify things just because they are come through a screen.
I didn't think you were doing that. And I struggle with it too.
I mean, like what you said you want to crush all of YouTube. There's a lot. I mean, there's infinite. So like I've learned many things on
That's so
YouTube.
true.
I installed my own car radio about a decade ago
Nice.
because of a YouTube video specific to the make and model of my car. I don't know who thought to make that video, but thank you.
Yes.
Right? So there is stuff out there that isn't just an infinite loop of YouTube shorts. Right? There is some really great stuff. And so thank you, because you could look up, and I've even used this in my classrooms. Sometimes I use it in my classroom because kids in our current world are so connected to the screen that they can sometimes focus better
Mm.
on a lesson coming through the projector than from me in person. So, you know, get some watercolor materials and go on YouTube and say watercolor techniques.
Yeah.
As simple as that, and you'll crack open the door to a whole rabbit hole of watercolor painting. But I think what we need to do is pay attention to what lights our kids up.
Mm-hmm.
And for some kids that's sports, that's awesome, right? And for some reason, sports parents have no problem doing that. They're like, oh, he threw a ball. I'm gonna get that kid a baseball glove. And for some reason, we all put the crayons out, but we don't get as excited
Yeah.
for those creative things. But if we could,
Mm-hmm.
that might be the way to say, like, oh my gosh, look at these things you drew with crayon. That's so phenomenal. We see that spark, and let's encourage that spark.
Yeah.
Do we have time for one more
Yes.
tidbit? Okay. So since we're talking about online and online videos, here's another thing that I want people to watch out for. And I talk to my students about this, or in the last 5 years, I've really been hammering on this with my students. So many videos now, especially videos showing creative things and making of things, are shown in time lapse.
Oh my gosh. I was going to bring this up.
Oh, go
This
ahead.
is what Alice wants to watch. And the video will be 2 minutes long and they will have made 40 things. And she's like, well, I want to do that. And I'm like, well, you can't in that way. And that, like, how do you do it? She's like, well, I don't know. I watched it on YouTube.
Correct. And so what happens, first of all, let's preface this, they are really fun to watch.
Yes. And addicting.
Something happened in time lapse. Like, somebody builds this entire hut out of trees they cut down in the forest with a pocket knife, and they're putting the moss on the ceiling and the whole, and you're like, that's
5 minutes.
5 minutes, right? And it's so fun to watch. I truly believe that it is, in a weird way, poisoning our kids' understanding of how challenging and difficult and time-consuming things are. But the truth is that things worth doing are challenging and take time.
Yes.
Whether that's making a friendship bracelet or painting a painting or building a hut in the woods, and so what happens is I get students who will make a mark. And if that first mark isn't like the whole drawing within 2 minutes, it's a fail. I failed. I can't do this. And so I work really hard to remind them that, like, time lapse is cool, but it isn't reality. And if you're going to do any of this stuff, like, you have to be okay with it being hard.
Yeah.
And it taking a while. And maybe even not working right.
Yeah.
A couple times.
Absolutely. Is there specific language that you use with them around it? I mean, you have just articulated the idea very clearly.
What I'll do a lot of times is I will remind them about the things that they already do well that they love. and because, especially middle school age, almost everybody plays a sport.
Mm-hmm.
Many, many kids will play an instrument, but they do these things. And I'm like, you couldn't throw a fast pitch over the plate when you first picked up a baseball, right? Or you barely play the scales on the trumpet when you first picked up a trumpet, but you practiced and you got a little bit better, and now look where you are. So you understand this concept.
Yeah.
That things worth doing can be challenging and take time. You just have to apply that to the meal you're cooking, or the drawing that you're drawing,
Yeah.
or the story you're writing, or
Yeah. And any of these places, I mean, the idea that we've been circling this entire conversation is that creativity is a muscle, just like anything else.
yes.
And it needs to be practiced. And it can be done in so many different areas. And it's beautiful inside an art classroom. Yes, it can also happen on the field, in the kitchen, at your job.
And look for it. It's funny, as we're saying this, I love these conversations because, yeah, and you and I have had many of them over the years, but things grow out of the conversation itself. And I don't know why this just popped into my head, but I was thinking about this summer, we spent a lot of time on the beach,
Mm-hmm.
right? And both my kids stack rocks. It's not crazy, they're not carving Michelangelo's David out of a block of marble. They're just stacking rocks. But it's creativity. It takes some thinking to balance them, to figure out what's going to balance. And then for a brief moment, you've left something unique
Mm-hmm.
in the world. Even this sounds about as cheesy as you could get, but even a spiral drawn in the sand
Yeah.
is something.
Yep.
And it's added a little bit of beauty to the world.
Yeah.
And boy, if we don't need a little bit more beauty added to this world.
Every day. Every day.
Yeah. What did I see recently that just said it doesn't need to be perfect at first. It just needs to exist. And I think our kids fall into this trap. And now we've come all the way back to that fear of failure, is that if it isn't right, if it isn't perfect,
Yeah.
then I shouldn't have bothered at all. And since I'm pretty sure that I won't get it perfect the first try, I'm not going to try.
I just won't try.
And so if we can remind them that just doing anything, just doing something, bringing it into existence is the first step. It's not the last step. It's the first step. Then maybe we can keep the ball rolling from there.
Thanks for hanging out with me on The Weekly Parent. If something you heard today made you think, laugh, or feel just a little more human, don't be shy. Subscribe, text it to your BFF, or group chat, or leave us a review. Remember, you'll find free tools, downloads, and whatever else I've cooked up this week in the show notes. Check those out. Parenting is messy. Let's not do it alone. See you next time.